In 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the Twins Off Daily podcast, brought to you by twinsdaily.com, the finest source for independent Twins coverage on the entire interwebs. How the heck are you, Twins territory? We are very excited to be back with you for another episode here on another lovely off day for our Minnesota Twins. I'm here with three of Twins Daily's finest. Let's start with a new member of our chat here. We're going with Mr. Peter Labuza. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. First time caller, long time listener.
There we go. We love to hear it. On the left there, we have Mr. Gregory T. Masterson. Gregory, what's up?
How we doing? I would like to be the first to say, rest in peace, Willie Mays.
Did that happen? Was that this week?
That was
unfortunately, yes.
Greg, you're breaking the ice for a lot of people here. This is
oh, geez. Well, this is why I was the first to say.
Okay, well, mission accomplished, my friend. Cody, I don't know how you can possibly transition after that, but what do you got for us?
I mean, RIP to the Colosseum. The Twins will never play there again, so that's also sad.
Dang, the Bay Area just taking hit after hit after hit. Well,
and enough about Byron Buxton.
There we go. Well, that's let's talk a little bit about the week that the Twins have had here. They just got done at the Oakland Colosseum, as we mentioned, and one of us was actually in attendance at the game. Gregory Masterson, what was it like there? What were the vibes on the last visit for the Minnesota Twins to the Oakland Colosseum?
Yeah, this was my first time at the Colosseum. I'm here with former Twins blogger Des Tobin. If anybody is from way back in like 2008, he used to actually have a podcast with Fanatic Jack. So we're seeing the Coliseum. It's both of our first times here, and it's been it's strange. Like it's in disrepair, but you can definitely tell it was a nice stadium at one point, and it's very sad that it's kind of fallen into the state it is, and nobody's spending money on it. And the fans have been great. There was only about 8,000 to 10,000 fans there while we were there this weekend, but they had a lot of energy. It's just really disappointing that this is where we are with the Oakland Athletics, with them closing up the stadium and moving on to Sacramento and then hypothetically Las Vegas, if that actually goes through. But it was a treat to be here, and I'm sad to see it go, even if it is well past its expiration.
Yeah, it would have been really fun to see another Moneyball year, have them be kind of unlikely heroes of the season that get into the playoffs again on a dime on the budget. But you know what? They didn't show up this weekend, that's for sure. But it's tough. It's tough. I heard there's a lot of charm at that stadium. It's one that I never was able to go to, but God, how many seagulls did you see, Greg? What do you think?
That was today. This afternoon was the first time I saw him. I was facing the outfield the first 2 days, so there might have been seagulls behind me, but today there's probably 24 seagulls circling the field, and I didn't know that was a part of the Coliseum experience, but it was. I'm afraid of birds, so I'm glad that they were on the other side of the stadium.
It's actually much worse at Oracle Park, where
really?
they really take, because they know there's way more food there.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh man, do they count the birds in the attendance at Oakland Coliseum? You said 8,000 to 10,000. That sounds a little generous.
That's the paid attendance.
Oh,
I believe Glenn Perkins made that joke on the broadcast today.
Oh, did he? Great minds. I was not watching.
Stealing bits, Lou.
Listen, Glenn, I know you're an avid listener. I apologize, my friend. I owe you lunch.
The thing about Lou's earlier point really quick is that like this Ace team, they actually have some good young players like Langoliers, Soderstrom, Zach Geloff, but it feels like they're nearing like the next good, like cheap like Ace team, but it's just not going to be in Oakland. So, it's all just kind of like everything is bad about that.
It's really interesting about that A's front office. I feel like unlike other teams that have gone through like the rebuild process of like what the Astros and the Orioles have done, the A's get to a better point earlier.
Mhm.
And right, like they only take like 2-3 years to be like, okay, this is a decent team. And you see like, okay, they just get a little pitching next year, and it's like, this is a team that probably sneaks into the wild card, especially in an expanded playoff era. But from there, it's just like, but who cares? Because they're in Sacramento and
Yeah, exactly.
League ballpark.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it happens in like 2 to 3 year cycles. And, you know, like you mentioned, even like the Cubs too, like they had their big rebuild. They were good. Now it's been like 7 years. And now they're, you know, just kind of back at being mediocre. But yeah, no, like I said earlier, it's just very unfortunate all around.
And I hope for baseball's sake that there's at least one more overflowing toilet that that just floods the visitors club.
I meant to bring this up. There are troughs. I was not aware of this, but there are troughs, and I was in the bathroom alone, because there's not a ton of people there, and I finished doing my business, and I walk over to the sink, and this I would say maybe a 20-ish year old guy walks in, and he looks at the troughs, and there's like not like a moment of realization or like understanding. He turns around and he kind of goes to the other side of the restroom and sees just stalls there, and he like looks at that and then turns around and comes the other way. So it's clear, like I'm watching him and I'm like, yeah, this guy is looking for a urinal and he does not see a urinal. He's not looking for stalls. And I said, you lost? You looking for a urinal? He's like, yeah. I said, it's right there, buddy. And he looked at it, he goes, no. I said, yeah, you just walk up there and you do your thing. And he goes, I need to take a picture of this. And he like pulls out his phone and takes a picture of it. And I was like, you're not from Minnesota, at least. I know that much. So RIP to the Metrodome trough too.
Classic.
Very classic. You know, they sold off a lot of the Metrodome chairs and stuff. I feel like you see them at a lot of garage sales or in people's sports dens and stuff. What they do with the troughs? Did they sell the troughs?
Those too.
They sold those too. Yeah, they did sell those.
For real? They actually did.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, there's suburbanites in Minnesota who have troughs in their garage, and they just be in those.
Okay, well, I might be scrolling eBay after this, adding to my birthday lists. But let's move on here. Let's talk about a segment that we're kind of reintroducing into the fold here. We're calling it our walk-off question. So this is going to be kind of a goofy off-the-wall question that we used to start the episode out with. And now we're going to introduce the question now and then save our answers for the end of the episode. For those that are looking for more in-depth baseball talk, we're going to still front load that on the top of the show here. But let's talk about our walk-off question, which is, which non-baseball Minnesota athlete would you put on this Twins team? And then going with that, you have to cut somebody from the roster in order to get this new person on the club. Who are you cutting and where are you playing this non-baseball Minnesota athlete that's now on the Twins? So think about that for a beat here. We'll come back to it near the end of the episode and talk about and we'll discuss our answers for it. But let's move on to our next segment, which is a rapid recap since our last show. Was a quick turnaround this time for this episode. Our last episode was just a week ago, so we're only talking about 6 games here. The Twins went 1-2 against the Tampa Bay Rays at home, and 2-1 in Oakland with 2 pretty awesome starting pitching performances as double exclamation points at the end of the season. Editors love those. So let's talk about it. Who's not? What did we like from this week? What broke our hearts? Let's start with you, Greg. What were some big standouts from the 2 series? The first against the Rays and then against the A's.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to start by acknowledging Bailey Ober and Pablo Lopez the last couple of days. Pablo has not been looking great. He went 8 innings with 14 strikeouts today, shutout baseball. Bailey gave up, 3 hits or 2 hits and a walk. He gave up 3 base runners yesterday in a complete game. Unfortunately, 2 of those hits were home runs, so he did give up the 2 runs. I mean, if he could just keep the ball in the ballpark, that could have been a really special day for him. Obviously, it was a very special day anyway, but It's unfortunate when you only give up a handful of hits and they go for home runs. Your line score looks a little bit worse than it could be. But 17 innings between those two guys, 2 runs. Pablo really needed that day. Bailey's complete game was 89 pitches, the first time since Carlos Silva in 2005 that a Twins pitcher has done that. I believe Carlos had 76 pitches. Bad boys.
Sorry, there was a issue with some protests very close to where I live.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, I will see the floor after that. That's my shepherd's hook, I suppose.
Yeah, that was us playing Gregg
those
off, actually. Nice. Well, let's move on to Cody. Cody, what do you think? What stood out to you over these last couple of series?
Yeah, so I think the Twins offense is finally coming around. And I know we said that before, and it's like, it's wavered, it's kind of regressed a little bit, but like, it's kind of the cliche in baseball, but they say as the summer months come around, as June, July, August, as it gets hot, offense picks up. And I think that is playing like a pretty big role into what's happening with the Twins. So if you look at their OPS as a team, it's when the series against the Rays and the series against Oakland, in 4 of the 6 games, they have an OPS above 830. And in 3 of the 6 games, they have an OPS above 900. And 2 of those games are an OPS above, like 1,000, 1.1, somewhere around there OPS. So they're hitting really well as a team, collectively. I don't know how many runs exactly, but it felt like every single game in these series, they had at least, besides the game, I guess, yesterday, they had like 7 runs. They had 6 runs. The offense was clicking. They hit over, 10. They put over 10 balls in play, like as total hits. So, I'm really impressed by the Twins offense right now. I think this is something that will actually, become consistent. I think we can actually trust the offense now. Royce Lewis is in the lineup every day. Carlos Correa is still hitting well. He's regressed a little bit, but he's not going to hit 500 forever, obviously. But he's still the one of the best bats in the lineup. It would be nice to see Ryan Jeffers turn things around and start hitting again. The Twins at the catching position, there's really no offense there. Vasquez is still struggling. He will all season more than likely, but Jose Miranda's great. There's just like a lot of hitters, and just the overall offense there's a lot of reason for optimism around that.
For sure. Isn't it kind of funny that I feel like every year we hear, what's going on with the baseball? The offense is down league wide, especially our team. And we like forget it every single year. And it feels like as it gets warmer, more hits come. And I feel like it's a recurring story every single, come late May, early June. And you're right. It feels like we're starting to see it right here. Good health on the roster definitely helps too, that they're kind of putting out more of their A lineups that they were kind of hoping to put out there. Peter, anything else sticking out to you over these last couple of series for the Twins?
Just a couple of notes, right? I think building on Cody's points about the offense heating up, like obviously we've seen like players who are struggling come together, like Kyle Farmer in his small bit is hitting 346 in June. And like, it's not that many games and plate appearances, but that's like kind of what we expected him to do. Manuel Margot is obviously doing well. Carlos Santana is like a top like WOBA leader in the league. Yeah. I just want to point out, I'm just looking at the Fangraphs WAR leaderboard. 25 Ezekiel Tovar with Colorado, 24 Carlos Correa, who's just been fantastic, 23 Fernando Tatis Jr., and 22 Willie Castro.
Yeah,
Willie Castro is the 22nd best hitter in baseball. This is a super utility guy. I know in our Slack for Twins Daily, we talked about writing a piece like, is he an extension candidate? Is someone like, who knows if this is going to last, right? We were kind of ready to write him off the first month of the season when he was just striking out and like taking a lot of pitches and then just put it back together. And then, I'll just say, I want to build on Gregg's point about Pablo's performance today. Just watching it, it really felt like that vintage, like Astros Pablo game during the playoffs last year. Like, just like really nailing all of his pitches, just getting them in the right places. And yeah, you can say this is an Oakland lineup that isn't as strong, but as Cody mentioned before, right? These people have hitters. It started to show some weakness near the end. I think, that hit by Andujar would have been a home run in 14 of 30 ballparks. And I think there was another hit that would have been a cheap shot at Yankee Stadium. And then he walked the player near the end. But if you look at, he only had like 3 balls with players like 3 times through his entire 8 innings. It was just really, really impressive. And I think, it was reported by Do-Young Park of MLB that he may have done some mechanical adjustments, and we don't know exactly what that is, but it showed today. So I'll just end on that. And I guess we should talk about the bullpen, which has been a problem.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come up. Let's we hear plenty of that on Twins Twitter.
I want to throw out fun stat that appeared in a story I wrote a week or two ago. I did not dig it up. Thank you, Matt Trueblood, for finding it. And it's also been on the Twins Daily account. That Willie Castro just became the 4th person to have 20 appearances in a season at shortstop, third base, center field, and left field. There's only been 4 times that's happened in recorded baseball history. 2 of them were ex-Twins, Denny Hawking and Cesar Tovar. That's a big deal because this was only the 76th game today, 77th game today. This season is not halfway over, and Willie Castro has been incredibly flexible. And probably within the next week, he's going to set the record at 5 different positions that he's made 20 appearances in a season at, because he only has 15 appearances at second base. Assuming that there is no other second baseman who shows up in the near future, he's going to get that within like the week. Nobody has ever done 20 games at second, third, short, left, and center. I just wanted to put that on the air. That's amazing.
Yeah, kind of going along with that too. My wife, she does not watch a lot of baseball, but when she has gone to Twins games the last couple of years, I've asked her who her favorite Twin was, and her favorite current Twin right now is Jose Miranda. Right after is Willie Castro, and I think 95% of that is because on the scoreboard every once in a while they'll have like this, fun facts about this player or something like that. And his has a hidden talent that he can bark exactly like a dog. And my wife thought that was hilarious and decided that, yes, Willie Castro is him. He's the guy because he can bark exactly like a dog. I got to hear it now. I need to hear what his bark is.
Difficult to bark like a dog? Like that seems like a talent that many people can do.
Sure. Or is he like
exactly like a
really,
dog?
really good at it? That's what I want to know. I got to hear it. So that's on my bucket list for the rest of this year. Hear Willie Castro bark like a dog. Okay. Well, that's very fun here. Let's see. Let's move on to minor leaguers that have caught our eye in the last week. Let's go to Cody here. Cody, has anybody caught your eye from the Twins minor league affiliate?
Yeah, so I actually have 2. So if you remember in the offseason, it happens every offseason, but the Twins actually got some pretty highly ranked international signing prospects. So there's Deiber De Los Santos and Eduardo Beltre. So De Los Santos, when he was signed, was the number 8 international prospect in baseball, and Beltre was the number 39 international prospect in baseball. So recently, they have made their debuts in the Twins organization. I think both of them are in the Dominican Summer League, if I'm not mistaken. But recently, De Los Santos went 3 for 4 with a home run that he hit at a 104 mile per hour exit velocity, which is really impressive, especially at that age. I think he's still 17. And then Eduardo Beltre hit a 101 mile per hour home run in the same game as De Los Santos. So both of them, it's a really small sample, but to be that age, to hit home runs that fast, and both their swings look extremely fluent too. Like if you just watch your videos, like, I'm not like a swing master. I'm not like, one of those people. I don't know everything inside and out, but they just look really like they know what they're doing. And also just one more stat too. So in his last, I think it looks like 12 games, De Los Santos has an OPS like above 1,000. It's like a 1.015 around there. So he's hitting extremely well there. I think there really could be a future there. Obviously, we don't know long term, but to be doing this well at such a young age is really encouraging.
Yeah, the best teams always execute every once in a while on some of these international draft classes. So it's really nice to see the encouraging start to these 2 pretty highly touted prospects. That's a good one. Peter, how about you? Any Twins minor leaguers catch your eye?
Yeah, I've got maybe an interesting one. I've been keeping an eye at high A with the The Colonels, it's their closer, Ricardo Velez. He's from Puerto Rico. He's 25. He got suspended for some PEDs in, I believe, 2022 when he was still in the complex league, an 80-game suspension, but he's kind of bounced back from that. And he's thrown 32 and a 2/3 innings for the Colonels. He's got a 1.93 ERA with them. He's striking out basically 12 per 9. Only allowed a single home run in that span in his second to last game. He just closed out their Friday game by posting 2 innings before the Colonels walked it off. What I find interesting about Velez is he's not a typical flamethrower closer. He's not like Johan Duran. He kind of tops out around 95 miles an hour, and he's got a 5-pitch mix. Who knows what that means for his future development, because that's not, the typical profile. But, if he can make this work at high A, I would be curious to see if, they send him to the Windsurge is single A, correct? No, it's the double A.
Yeah, they're double A.
Yeah. Okay. Send him to the Windsurge and see what happens, because I like weird pitchers, and he strikes me as, breaking up the monotony of 101 mile an hour flamethrowers who need Tommy John after 2 seasons.
Sure. The jump from high A to double A is kind of the most intriguing for most guys. I feel like, that's kind of double A, I feel like, has the most high-end talent that's actually approaching big league play, you know what I mean? Whereas AAA is a mix of, high-end prospects too, but there's a lot of, whether it's rehabbing major leaguers or kind of quad A guys like Alex Kirilloff, or, any of these Twins guys that kind of bounce between the big leagues and the minor leagues. So you get kind of a mix of talent there. But yeah, the jump from high A to double A is always super, super intriguing. So that's a good name to keep an eye on. That's for sure. But let's move on to our next topic here. We're going to have our big inning topic, which is the uber prospect Brooks Lee, who has been red hot at AAA for the St. Paul Saints. He just returned a couple weeks ago from injury that he was out for 2.5 months, right? It was near the end of spring training when he went on the injured list. So it's great to see that he hit the ground running for the AAA St. Paul Saints. But it makes things kind of tricky, obviously, because eventually, theoretically, he would force the Twins' hand if he keeps performing at this level. And then we have a little bit of a roster crunch. But let's talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to go to each of you, and you're going to give me we're going to guess a date, an actual date on the calendar that he gets called up. We'll keep track of that, and we will see whoever was closest to the pin once he does eventually get called up. So tell me the date that you think Brooks Lee will actually get the official call up to the major leagues, and then you can just kind of give me a little bit about your reasonable expectations for the rest of the year, production wise, or where he's going to play, or what do you think, how do you think he's going to fit on this team? So let's start with you, Gregg. What do you think? When do you think he'll get called up, and what do you think the rest of his year looks like?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I've been trying to think it through because, he's performing super well, and there's definitely a spot on the roster in theory for him because there's not an everyday left fielder. Willie Castro is kind of your everyday second baseman right now. Could just move Castro out to left. No, nobody would bat an eye, and Lee could be your second baseman. I just don't know how antsy the Twins are right now to get him up. And so trying to think. I don't think that it's going to be, shoot, you know what? I'm going to say that it's going to be like mid-July, like July 17th. And then he's going to be up next week, like 3 days from now. But I don't know. I want to say, I don't think that it's going to be like a late, I don't know. Somebody's going to get injured. I'm just going to put it on the record now. I'm going to knock on wood, but I am going to say the Twins have been really healthy for like the last month or so. If you basically like without the Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, and Carlos Correa injuries early in the year, and I guess Alex Kirilloff's mystery back, the Twins have been healthy, which is a wild thing to say about this baseball team specifically. But at this point, I like most years, I feel like Brooks Lee would have already been up, but also he was not healthy when he had a chance to. Gosh, I'm just talking myself in circles. I'm just going to put my pin down and say July 17th, right smack dab in the middle of July. I think he's going to be up, but I could also see it being like late August. Who knows? I don't know.
I kid you not, July 17th is my birthday. So that would be happy birthday, Sweet Lou Hennessy. Here's your
Happy
gift,
birthday.
Brooks Lee in the major leagues. So I will remember that. I will we'll see what happens. Peter, what do you think? What's your official date that you think Brooks Lee will actually get called up to the Twins? How does the rest of the year go?
This front office does not seem like antsy to jump on these things, and I feel like Gregg, barring injury, we're not going to see Brooks Lee until it's necessary. I'm going to go with August 1st. I'm going to go with right after the trade deadline. Maybe they will find some way to trade a major leaguer, maybe even someone like an Austin Martin or something, and open up a spot for them. I don't think it's because right now the line about a month ago, right, was get rid of Kyle Farmer, who was not producing, and you can fill in at the time Brooks Lee or whoever. And now Farmer's at least hitting well, and it doesn't seem, maybe Farmer is sent in a trade as part of a package of hey, you need someone to fill in, and we'll cover the salary for you during this time.
The Logan Forsythe, yes,
yeah, the Logan Forsythe trade is exactly what I was thinking of. The other note I just want to say is in the minor leagues, Ed Julian has a 81 WRC plus. So with 100 being minor league average, something's got to happen there because that's rough to see in the minor leagues given his production. Yeah, we'll see. I think this team's going to play it slow in the way they like to do. They obviously, if they want him for October, you need more than just a September call up. So I'm going to go with August 1st.
Okay, August 1st, that's pretty reasonable, especially with the July 30th day trade deadline this year, I want to say. So that could be pretty feasible. When you mentioned theoretically trading Kyle Farmer, for some reason in my head I was picturing you or the Twins, Derek Falvey, calling the Pittsburgh Pirates and being like, "Hey, Paul Skeens for Kyle Farmer. What do you think? Let's make a deal." But no, you're probably right. It would probably be kind of like a salary filler, you got to think, or maybe even just a drop depending on their moves at the deadline. Cody, what do you think about Brooks Lee?
Yeah, so my initial date was actually around the same time as Peter. I was going to go July 30th too. And I was hypothetically going to say that they would depart with Kyle Farmer in a trade as a dump or kind of a salary dump, but just to get rid of him. But, as Peter also noted, Farmer is performing better recently. His role has kind of stepped up. Like Gregg noted in earlier episodes, he was basically just a defensive substitute for Miranda, and he would play second base against lefties. But, he played shortstop the other day. He's kind of gotten a larger role since Julian was sent down. I think another interesting avenue to go down with Brooks Lee, I think, say maybe in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what if Buxton gets hurt again, right? What if Buxton needs to go on the IL? If Buxton were to go on the IL, I think Brooks Lee could make sense as the next call up. Austin Martin's already on the roster. Willie Castro's already on the roster. So at center field, those are your two backups, right? If Buxton goes down, Castro will play center, Martin will play center. That way you call up Lee. Lee could play second. Lee could play third. So I think it's kind of a natural substitution that could happen there. I'm not wishing it on Buxton. I hope he doesn't get injured, obviously, but I think, it could happen at any point. It's always been like that. So I'll go mid to late July, that whole 15-day span of time. I'll go with that, with the huge.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay. We're playing closest to the pin and you picked half a month.
doing
You
a Price is Right
all
thing.
the days between me and Peter.
Yeah, no. Well, when we talked about when Royce Lewis would come back, I said the month of June.
That's true. You did.
Yeah.
I do want to say, since you guys both kind of pointed at the trade deadline, what if he doesn't?
I am so glad you went
debut
there,
with the
Greg. I was going to
Twins.
say, before I give you my official prediction, there was a few wild card scenarios, and one of those wild card scenarios was he never debuts with the Minnesota Twins because he gets traded before he makes his major league debut. So I hope that doesn't happen. I'm a big Brooks Lee fan. I think he's going to be good, and it would be an unbelievable package that would come back. So I'm a little curious about what that would look like.
Get
But
ready to learn Miami, buddy.
Yeah, it need to be Jesus Luzardo. I don't even know if that's really a good trade
It's-
anymore, but
I'm
not right.
I'm pretty skeptical in general on the trade deadline for the Twins and most teams, right? You have all these teams that are like 1 or 2 games out of contention, particularly in the National League because of the expanded playoffs. And I think it's just going to make everyone a little antsy to push their chips in. And that's going to make the few possible trades, whether it's Luzardo, Fetty, at whatever Oakland's, putting up the job, they're going to be really, really expensive. And I don't know. And I think, the Twins are going to kind of look at like the trade deadline the way they looked last year and said, like, let's just roll the dice with kind of what we've got. I think at best, maybe a relief pitcher pickup is my kind of thought at
Could
this
use
point.
a lefty, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'm working on a piece right now for Twins Daily. In it, I think 25 to 30 teams are within 5 games of 500. Like the league just like lacks parity. Like it's just like, so I really don't think there'll be very many significant trades this year. Even like the Mets trading Pete Alonso, it's like they could get the 3rd wild card spot. So why would they deal him? So there's not going to be very many big time names getting traded.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. But I think there's a few other wild card scenarios that I was kind of thinking of too. One of them was that he just doesn't debut with the Twins this year at all. They have no need for him. The offense continues to fire on all cylinders, and they just decide to keep him cooking at AAA. And the other wild card answer was like tomorrow, which is Tuesday, this week. The only way that I would have guessed that was if I was really confident that they like absolutely loved him. He got a lot of playing time in spring training before getting hurt. So he was firmly in the plans for this year, you got to think. But I'm not guessing that he'll be here this week, but my official guess is actually going to be September 1st. I think that he's going to be the Twins lone hitter as the call up once the roster expands to 28 guys. It's unexciting, I know, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm playing my Price is Right rules. I'm going to get closest to the pin, and we'll see what happens.
And I mean, even if it was for Kyle Farmer, right? It's not like Kyle Farmer has this huge role. If it's just like a switch, you're still going to need to be trying to find him playing time. So there is definitely a world where even if they move on from Kyle Farmer, they don't say, Kyle Farmer's 1.5 starts a week at second base against lefties. That's going to Brooks Lee, and then they might not be able to find him playing time and want him playing every day. So I think that's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't bet on it, but I could see that world.
Boy, I hope no Pirates executives are listening to this episode because you are drastically undervaluing Farmer as a trade bait for Skeens. But
no listener, Ben Charrington. Ben Charrington listens to this podcast every week.
Yes. Hey, Ben, nice to see you. Thanks for supporting us. Well, with that done, let's move on to our next segment, which is Picks to Click. Okay, so as you all know, Pick to Click is our weekly segment where we pick a certain category that we are going to keep track of for this Twins team between now and our next episode. Our next episode is just a week away, so we're just talking about 6 games again. But let's check in on last episode's picks, which was most walks by a hitter in just this week. So the margins were going to be pretty thin here, but Gregg and I were joined by Melissa Berman. Melissa guessed Mr. Manny Magoo, who walked a total of 0 times. I'm sorry, Melissa. I did not explain the segment to you enough, I guess.
She did win Immaculate Gregg, though. I will say that. She won the fan vote for Immaculate Gregg, so shout out Melissa for that.
Shout out Melissa. Absolutely. This is all just hogwash and a luck of the draw. So Gregg and I actually tied this week. So for the most walks for a hitter since last episode, Carlos Santana and Carlos Correa each had 2. I picked Santana, Gregg picked Correa, and that was good for tied for second on the team. Do you guys want to guess who had the most walks in this last week for the Twins?
Oh God.
Willie Castro.
Good guess.
Santana?
He was second. I picked him.
Okay.
It was actually Mr. Austin Martin, who drew 3 walks in his limited time. So very, very odd.
Shout out Austin Martin.
Yeah, shout out Austin Martin, making us look like fools. So let's move on to our all-time standings for picks to click. Gregg and I sit atop the leaderboard. I have 4. He has 3. It makes sense. We're on like every episode, but Sherry is also on the board with 1. Matt Braun is also on the board with 1. And Nick Nelson, Cody Schoenman, Theo Tollefson, and Melissa Berman are all waiting for their first points. But Cody, I can smell it for you, my friend. I'm smelling those RBIs.
Wait, Cody, you've never won?
I've never won. No,
I can't believe you'd never. Are you
I've
sure?
never come close. Yeah, I haven't
Never
even
won.
come close.
Oh,
I'm always last. And like
Can't believe
you think I'm gonna have a good one this week, but I'm not gonna have a good one this week, and it's just gonna keep being a 0.
I can't believe you've never won. Oh no.
Sad.
Wow.
Pity. So I can smell a win. I can smell a win coming for Cody. And for those who are not watching our video feed, I'm doing the Twins t-shirt smell 'em RBIs from what was that, like 2006 or something.
Yes.
So Cody, I got a good feeling for you, my friend. Our new picks that we're going to track over the next week. Which player on the Twins is going to have the most games at designated hitter? So start thinking about who you think. We're not talking about just starts. If they come in as a pinch hitter and remain in the game as a designated hitter, that counts too. It's just most games at designated hitter between now and next week. So where would we like to start? Gregg, who do you think?
Trevor Larnach. I'm going to take the layup here. I believe he leads the team in appearances at designated hitter. He has the turf toe thing going on, so they've preferred to keep him out of left field. I do not know the probables over the next week. I don't know if there's a bunch of lefties coming up. However, if we're also including pinch hitting, I'm sure that when some righty, I won't say who to give away another good answer. Maybe you throw Trevor Larnach into pinch hit in the 5th inning or something. Rocco ball. I'm going to go with Trevor Larnach.
Okay, that's a good guess. I feel like Larnach has been playing started to play a little more in the field lately. That toe must be feeling a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. But you're right, he still does get significant time at designated hitter. Peter, who do you think? Who's going to start or who's going to play the most games as a designated hitter?
I'm going to go with the second most obvious, which is probably Royce Lewis. He played DH twice this week, I believe.
Yes, the last 2 days.
And I also, this is not to say, because Royce Lewis has been absolutely incredible at the plate. I think his defense at third base seemed solid and fine. I think like Jose Miranda's looked a little better at third base. And I feel like the Twins are kind of leaning into that a little bit and they want to keep both them in the lineup. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Royce Lewis play a couple, more games there. And that might be enough plate appearances to get me over Gregg.
Okay. Cody, what do you think?
So over the next 6, they face 5 righties and 1 lefty, and the lefty is Jordan Montgomery. So this is tough. So I'm gonna go with Matt Wallner. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually gonna go with Carlos Santana. I think he could. He is, he's a switch hitter. He's better from the right side, but as a lefty, I think that's kind of like my only choice to really maybe get it.
Yeah, you guys picked 3 of the better options. That's for sure. Oh boy. I was thinking about taking Matt Wallner just in the off
me
chance.
too, actually.
We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but with Max Kepler's kind of nagging injury that he has, if Matt Wallner's
happen.
The call up that
if he's called up though, he's probably going to play right. So yeah,
maybe, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, my pick, I'll go with my wife's favorite player. I'm going to say Jose Miranda.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's You're right. I think he has looked, more comfortable at third. I'm not saying he's an all-star fielder there by any means, but he'll probably get at least one start there this week, you got to think. I'll go with Jose Miranda. I think Rocco really likes his bat in the lineup, so we'll see what happens. But good picks.
If I can have a point of order, none of us chose Byron Buxton, and Byron Buxton has been consistently playing now center field, pretty much like he's taking one day off a week at most.
Yeah.
All the sort of quote unquote concerns of like slow rolling Buxton, all that stuff that I think was a little more where we were seeing a little more DH at the beginning of the season or a lot more days off. That's just off, and maybe part of it was his like slow production that's sort of now kind of crept up, but I think we should kind of acknowledge all Buxton haters in disarray.
Yeah, Peter, that's a really good point, and I'm fully going to blame you if this is a jinx. So let's hope Byron is
whoa, didn't you jinx him like 15 minutes ago? You're not getting off the hook saying that Buxton might get hurt. And
I said that. Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least
I don't think I jinx people. I don't think that works with me.
That sounds like a jinx, man.
You jinx them by picking them to do something good.
Hey, when there's a no-hitter in the third inning, I say there's a no-hitter, and it never.
And it usually kills it. Yeah.
Yeah, usually kills it.
Technically, yeah. Statistically, usually that does kill it.
Unbelievable. Well, the Jinx Master, Cody Schoenman, has revealed his picks, but let's move on to the next segment, which is another thrilling, riveting edition of Gregory's Gripes. I love the music. I have to say it every time. I love the Gripes music. And every time I come across a gripe in my daily life, whether that's like a bad driver or, something that just ticks me off, I hear 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes right into the music, and I adore it. But anyway, let's move on. Greg, the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I think eventually we are going to move off of the royalty free. We're going to get our own music, but I don't think we'll ever leave this one. I think this one's got to stay. This edition of Gregory's Gripes is brought to you by baseball movies. Are you a movie maker who can't write a good script? Just make a baseball movie and get by on goodwill. Okay, so technically this was the Field of Dreams week. I'm super happy that they took that opportunity to leave Iowa and go down to Rickwood Field. That was awesome. Terrific presentation. I will say I've been a fanatic, I guess, of the Negro League since I was a wee lad. My dream vacation was to visit the museum in Kansas City. So if that puts it into perspective, I've been in on that. The second jersey I ever owned was a Cool Papa Bell Kansas City Monarchs jersey. He only played there 1 year, but the nice man at the museum said that I could have it printed with Cool Papa Bell, even though he was only there for a year. So loved that. Just want to say that. Anyway, that brings me to my topic. Field of Dreams is a terrible movie. I can't stand. I just got 2 nods from other people, but Lou did not nod. For those who are not looking, not watching the YouTube version of this. And I would just like to make my case for Field of Dreams being a miserable movie. First of all, just all baseball movies are just pretty bad by rule. They get by on goodwill. Even Little Big League, we love it because it's the Minnesota Twins. It's a decent movie, but it's not something I would ever watch if it wasn't a baseball movie about my team. So I don't get the love for it. I'll be the first one to say I bawl like a baby at the end. I do. It kills me inside. When he asks his dad to have a catch, I cry. I cry so much. But the movie itself is just 90 minutes of nothing. It's a very meandering plot. I get that that's kind of the point. It's supposed to be jumping around. It's supposed to kind of be this confused guy, but there's no real flow to anything. All the dialogue is just narrating what's going on. or giving exposition like a little history report on Shoeless Joe Jackson, or saying things like, we're going to need to sell the farm. This was an insane thing that I just did. I watched this 3 days ago to make sure that I'm not, overselling how bad this movie is. From a movie perspective, it's miserable. It's just jumping around. We go through like 90 minutes of nothing really happening for any sort of purpose other than to show that this guy is confusing, and there's not anything like entertaining going on. He's at a school board meeting, and all of a sudden he's like, I need to go to Darth Vader's house. And then he shows up and he sees Darth Vader and he brings him back. And then they go to 1972 just because. And it's like, it should be building to something that makes sense. And the climax of the movie is a little girl getting thrown off the bleachers by her uncle and choking on a hot dog moments after, like the fourth or fifth just senseless monologue of the movie, where they're like, well, we have Darth Vader here, so let's let James Earl Jones just say this long drawn out speech about how great it is to have this field and how everybody's going to come from miles around to do. It's like, wait, what are we watching? And then it just gets bailed out by, like I said, I cry like a baby at the end when he sees his dad and he has that catch. Every man who has lost his father wishes to one time be able to go back and have one last catch with their dad. It makes me bawl like a baby. I get that, but it didn't earn that. You had to sit through 90 minutes of just drivel and schlock. It's so just an exhausting experience to get to a moment that's beautiful, but it also it's a beautiful moment, but it's also a movie about a guy who is reconciling with his father. So you don't even have to need to reconcile with your father to appreciate that moment, because it's kind of lost. It's all about just being able to play catch with your dad one last time. My rant is over. Thanks for letting me commandeer the show, but I just had to get that off my chest.
Gregg, I'm glad you did that. I want to say I disagree with you. I hear that your point is more so in the filmmaking and the kind of the narrative than it was like a bad experience. And I feel like my take was always that I enjoyed that experience. I enjoyed watching it, but I can hear your side that it's in terms of story building and some of the things that don't make sense. But I think film is supposed to elicit a response, an emotional response, and I think it does it quite lovely in that last line there. It's the second best line of the movie. The first one is when Moonlight Graham says, "Hot dog stuck in the throat." I love that.
I laughed so hard when I saw that.
I'll say I find Field of Dreams just absolutely so bizarre in many of the ways that Gregg says, where it's just not it's not clear that this movie is really it's trying to be about so many things without and it feels like all the stuff with Shoeless Joe Jackson is just kind of thrown in there to give it a little bit of heft. I cannot stand it. I'll say this because in a former life I was a film critic and I taught film at university, so I'm snobby on film or whatever. I will say, maybe to do some promo, I have a good friend, Carson Lund, who just had a baseball movie that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in France. It's called EFIS. It's about a community rec league on the last day of their league. It's a mix of Taiwanese art house film with the movie MASH. It's kind of incredible. I helped on a work print cut of it and gave some notes. And I think it's going to come out in the next year. So I'll say that's something to look forward to in terms of a really good baseball movie that is designed for sickos. If you read Roger Angel cover to cover, you will love this movie.
Nice. Okay. Well, Peter. Yeah, Cody, go ahead.
I was going to say, on the baseball movie front, there's two movies that I do like. I haven't seen very many baseball movies. I can't lie. I do like Moneyball.
Good.
I do genuinely like Moneyball. I think Michael Lewis, it's a good book. And God, who wrote the script was Aaron I forgot who wrote the script for that.
Aaron Sorkin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Social Network guy. It is a good script. And then there's a movie called Everybody Wants Some by Richard Linklater. And I love that film. Great it's not movie. Really about baseball. It's more about the house and they're not a frat, but the people there. There's a lot of great characters. And I just love Linklater films in general. But that's a very not many people have seen that film, but I love Everybody Wants Some. That's probably my favorite baseball film.
It's one. I would say it's the most underrated baseball film out there.
It's
That one is
fantastic.
so good. I absolutely adored that movie. So high recommendation. No free ads though. Sorry guys.
No free ads.
No free ads.
Nice. Okay. Well, Greg, thank you so much for getting that gripe off your chest. How about you,
Thanks for
listeners? You got
listening.
any gripes that are that you'd like to air out? Please hit us up on Twitter at Twins Off Daily or at Greg T Masterson if you want to release some steam. So let's move on to our last segment here, which is the closer. Okay, so for this week's edition of The Closer, which is our weekly rotation of lighthearted games, we're going to play another edition of Hot Seat, really quick one this time. So with Hot Seat, I'm going to give each contestant a task or they're going to be tasked with a tricky hypothetical situation. They have to give us their on-the-spot solution, and we decide if they get to keep their job or if they get the old boot. So let's start with Mr. Gregg. You, my friend, are Derek Falvey, and out of these three players, you need to extend one, trade one, and cut one. And those three players are Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, and Joe Ryan. What do you do? Extend one, trade one, and cut one.
I am going to, well, first of all, I want to say Royce Lewis looks great in pinstripes. So I'm going to extend him so he can wear the gray pinstripes for the rest of his career. I mean, I don't think that he is the hitter that he has performed like in his first 90 games. I think I'm running out of games that I can continue to say that.
Yeah.
But listen, man, I want to see him extended, until at least like 32. If they could get out, at a reasonable time and don't need to sign him until he is 47, that'd be awesome. But it's not my money. Let's keep Royce Lewis around forever. Between the other two, I've got a cut and trade. I think that, listen, I lean toward the pitcher always going to have the most value. If I'm going to have to get rid of both of them, what we got? 3 years left to Joe Ryan? Yeah, I think.
3 after this, I think.
3 years left to Joe Ryan. He's a frontline starter. He is going to probably command more than Brooks Lee is. I think, unless you're trying to compete this year, then you probably trade Brooks Lee for value now, whereas Joe Ryan would be traded for prospects. But I think Joe Ryan's going to be the more valuable one, and then I'm gonna cut Brooks Lee. I'm gonna send him up the river, or down the river, whichever way the river flows around here.
Oh, unbelievable. If anybody is just tuning in right now, Greg Masterson just said that he wants to cut Brooks Lee, just say goodbye to him. So unbelievable. I cannot
cut him or put him in center.
Yeah, or send them up or down a river, apparently.
I guess if you're doing the river between Chicago and St. Louis, you can like have St. Louis reverse the river again, like they did like in the early 20th century. And so then he can just be stuck in the river going back and forth forever.
Wait, you're petitioning to put Brooks Lee on an indefinite river loop. Just like put him out to sea.
Let's see what happens. Maybe he'll perform better there.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, what do we think? Cody, Peter, do we like that answer out of Greg, who is pretending to be Derek Falvey? Personally, I think I would extend Lewis. I would trade Brooks Lee while he's at the peak of his value potentially right now. And I guess cut Joe Ryan just because of the least amount of team control, but that's going to bite you this year for sure. What do you guys think?
The problem is that, Lewis is a Boris client, so you can't extend him. It's impossible.
Oh,
it's literally impossible. You can't do that. This is a really tough one. Ryan would get more value than Lee right now. I agree. Just being a frontline starter. I don't know. I would extend Lewis. I think Gregg's fine. I think Gregg.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I might switch Brooks and Joe Ryan just because I always feel like pitchers' arms are like very, very fickle. And, Joe Ryan's such a weird pitch. Every time I watch him and I see 91 on the radar gun and like a hitter somehow missing it by like 6 inches, I'm like, how is this possible? So I'm always like ready to watch any pitcher fall apart.
Yes. Okay. So, Peter, I think I'm going to speak for the both of us, and we're going to vote for Gregg to be fired. So, Gregg.
Not again.
He's going to be on the river with Brooksley in the indefinite river.
Who do you think
pack your floaties? Pack your floaties, Gregg. All right. So let's move on to Cody. Your hot seat hypothetical is you're the decision maker that gets to make exactly one change to the City Connect uniforms. What would you add or subtract in order to boost their appeal?
Okay, so I love mostly everything about the jersey. I like the blue. I like the waves. I like the ripple idea. I like the logos, like the loon in the MN logo. The hats, I'm all cool with it. Well, I would change the biggest thing or most significant is I would take the yellow like, as a secondary color, and then I would use the gray that's like on the patches, like with the pink. It's like the gray and pink shadow. I would make the gray like the secondary color. So the gray would be on the brim. It would be like on the outline of the jersey, like the collar and everything. So yeah, I would take the yellow and switch it out with gray. And then it would be the same jersey, like blue pants, everything's still the same. So that's the one big move I would make.
Yeah, that'd be pretty intriguing. I'd be curious to see what those look like. Gregg, Peter, what do we think?
I think that my one move would be to burn it. So I would. I think that in the spirit of the hot seat, Cody's fired for that answer.
I agree with Cody. It's more of a color thing. Mine would be change the blue to a green, and then might go with the pink that they already have for some reason, just on half the loon logo for whatever reason. I also think maybe this is just going a little too silly, but I thought, seeing them actually on the broadcast as opposed to the promo stuff, they looked a little better to me. But I kind of like the idea of putting, instead of the MN logo, putting the 10,000 Lakes logo that's part of it across. Like that could be kind of cool in a different way, like, and it kind of highlight that whole idea that they kind of came around that, like, oh, we want to represent all of Minnesota as opposed to the Twin Cities.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. You know what, Cody, I liked your answer. I deem it acceptable. I think it plays with the spirit of the City Connect. So it sounds like you're keeping your job. Congratulations.
That's right, Gregg.
Get the white pants.
Yeah,
get the
right,
white pants.
I kept my job, Gregg. You didn't.
Yeah, take that, Gregg.
Happens to the best of us.
All right, Peter, you're the last one here for your hot seat hypothetical. You're Rocco Baldelli, and come Tuesday morning, Max Kepler approaches you and says he thinks he needs just 2 or 3 more days to really get through this neck issue. I promise, 2 or 3 days, and then I'll be right back in the game. I'll be better than ever. How do you approach it? What do you do? Because at that point, it gets to the week mark since he last played. I don't know. What do we think?
Okay, we got to go through that. Baseball players who I dear and love, and I spend way too much time watching all the time, are some of the dumbest people on the planet. And every week we hear about someone somewhere in the league or the minor leagues just doing some of the stupidest things ever. So let's go back. Max Kepler is on deck, realizes that his neck isn't entirely stiff, decides it's too late to let anyone know that he is having this huge neck cramp, and decides to try and bunt in the first inning with one runner on Royce Lewis on first, who has the second, and then dives for the first base in an incredibly just stupid play, and then is taken out of the game, which just was incredibly stupid. So I would give Max Kepler, if I was Rocco Baldelli, I'm giving him the stupid challenge. I am pulling out the sausage from wherever it still is. I'm having it to the dump. I'm having it put in a bun in front of Max Kepler and telling Max Kepler he can either, if he wants to stay on the team, he can eat the sausage front of him, or he can go on the IL.
You're telling
I am testing a test. No. I'm gonna, if he's taking a bite, we're stopping him. And we're just cutting him from the team because he's just his intelligence is just too far off the levels at that point. But there's just, baseball players are just part of a rich tapestry of life, as we like to say.
Okay, so you're telling him you could take a bite of this poison sausage or go on a rehab assignment. Okay, you know what? When you phrase it like that, I love the answer, and I think you keep your job. Gregg, Cody, what do you guys vote?
Gregg was about to say this, but it seems like we're playing into a stereotype here with the German guy eating a sausage, right, Gregg? Is that what
yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's this. We are not a problematic podcast. I disavow.
I'm part German. It's okay.
No, you know what? I will say, was Max Kepler, did he get his GED through the Twins? Like
Fort
the
Myers South
most
High School.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, he was actually in Fort Myers. He was
Yeah.
not, because they do have the academy that essentially gets. Okay, so we can't blame the Twins for that. We're not going to pin that on the Twins.
It is Florida though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Good point.
well, we are the 7 of you who have made it to the 59-minute mark are listening to us say some things we might regret someday.
Governor
no,
DeSantis is listening to this and just steam pouring out
Hi,
of his
Ron.
ears.
Thanks for listening, Ron. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm of the same mind. I don't know if he says it's going to be 2-3 more days. This is also. Well, it's the 59-minute mark. Kepler is a little bit slow to come back from these things anyway. If he says it's going to be 2 to 3 more days, I would assume it's probably going to hit the over on that. Just send him down, or not send him down. Put him on the IL. Just make your decision whether you want to give Matt Wallner or Brooks Lee a shot for the next week, and go on with your life.
Nevertheless, I think Peter keeps his job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Peter, well done. I think you keep your
I
job.
think we can do Gregg's plan, but we can also try the sausage challenge in the mix of that.
It can't hurt. Well, it can hurt. You could kill him with poison food, but this is a business. You have to take risks.
That's a good point. It's a good point, Gregg.
Can't follow the spreadsheets.
Yes.
With that said, let us go and take a look ahead at the schedule between now and our next episode, which again will be next Monday. So the Twins go to Arizona and play 3 against the Diamondbacks, and then they head out for 3 against Seattle, which will be exciting because they were pretty successful against the Mariners when they played against them in, I think it was April, right? Yep. So, dominant starting pitching, a couple star players on offense. It'll be pretty exciting to see what they can do for 3 more against the Mariners. So like I said, the date of our next episode is Monday, July 1st. Look at that. By that point, we will be beyond the 50% mark of the 2024 MLB season. Wow. So looking ahead at next episode, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about first half MVPs, LVPs, Cy Young, Cy Yucks. I'm sure we'll get through all of that on next week's episode. The rest of the panel here, anything else that you guys would like to plug that you are currently working on with Twins Daily?
Yeah, I'm finishing up. I try to do kind of a retrospective ahead of the trade deadline for whether, I set up every single trade deadline deal that the Twins have made under the Derek Falvey regime. I'm hoping that I'm not going to have to publish one on deadline sells. I hope that it's only going to be a deadline buys, but I rank from 1 to 8. The top 8, there's only 8 deadline buys. There are some names that you've probably forgotten about on there. There are not a ton of deadline buys in the Falvey era, but talk through them, what each side has done since leaving the Twins or arriving at the Twins, compare their pitching and hitting numbers, their baseball reference war. It's one of my favorite things to write. I try to do the same thing over the off season with buys and sells. Just kind of a look back, see how they're doing, kind of check in on that. That's what I'm mostly working on right now.
Love it. Can't wait to take a read of that one. Cody, what do you got?
Yeah, so last week I wrote about looking into trading for Heston Kierstead, the Orioles prospect. He's a left-handed hitting outfielder. He's like number 21 ranked prospect at MajorLeagueBaseball.com or MLB.com. So that was an interesting piece. Pretty much for the next month, I'm going to be writing trade profiles, like looking at 2 to 3 guys a week. This week, I plan to write about New York Mets reliever Reed Garrett, and then Tampa Bay Rays first baseman DH Yandy Diaz as potential targets. So I'm going to be looking at a lot of different avenues the Twins could go down. But yeah, just like expect a lot of trade candidate profiles from me going forward.
Love that. Awesome. Peter, anything on the docket right now, or are you taking a break?
Yeah. No, I got something in the works. I just pulled up a bunch of data earlier this week on looking at hit by pitches. The Twins are second after the Guardians in being hit by pitch. They're on pace right now for I think about 102. The record was set in under Buck Showalter's Mets at 106, so that's pretty high. It's led by Willie Castro and Ryan Jeffers. So I'm looking at some of the ways that they crowd the plate, or Jeffers in terms of his foot tapping kind of finds himself in the way of pitches. And I just wrote about Jose Miranda's swing profile, how he's kind of changed it, how he's becoming more of a foul machine and finding his way in the sweet spot in the zone, and it's really helping. And just to reference, because it was referenced by Corey Provis on the broadcast last week, my article on whether Carlos Santana actually takes it to first base or will toss it to the pitcher on grounds to first, which was a fun piece, and I was very glad to hear Corey mention it on the broadcast.
Yeah, that was super cool. And that was a really interesting piece you wrote there. So that's awesome. Can't wait to read more about what you got for us. But on behalf of our panel here on the Twins Off Daily podcast, we want to say thank you very much. And as always, stay sweet.